Hey, it's Weird Medicine, special edition. I'm not your medical provider. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Don't act on anything you hear on this show. So I'm talking over with your healthcare provider. I'm trying using OBS with StreamYard, and I can tell it's glitching like crazy. I wonder what if it really looks that way. If it does, I'll have to do something different. But anyway, this is just a quickie. I just want to see if this works, and I'm going to put it up on Patreon for a week, and then I'll release it public. I got to do something for the Patreon folks, especially when Tacey's out of town. So I appreciate it. Check out patreon.com/weirdmedicine. The old Myrtle's been on Perry Caravello's show. If you missed that, check out Tukey Soup. Tukey Soup with Bedabbler and El Horrible. Well, really, that's Tukey's, but Tukey Soup is on Sundays, and he plays the Perry Caravello stuff. And Myrtle's she's quite smitten with Mr. Caravelli, as she calls him. And my Aunt Myrtle, what can I do about it? She is her own woman, but she's smitten with Mr. Caravello. But my understanding is that my uncle... Cletus is getting upset about it, and cousin Delmer got something to say about it, so we'll see how that turns out. Hey, Johnny Longfeather, and hello, Nikki. I'm just checking some stuff out here. I wanted to do just a quick story about something that I didn't realize had a name, and it's called the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect. Now, I first noticed this when I was in Vermont. They came and did a story about my health clinic up there. And it was CBS News with Dan Rather. And they asked a lot of questions, took a lot of video. And then when they ran the story, every single thing that they said was wrong. I'm telling you, I made a list. It was unbelievable that the shit that they got wrong. And then I just turned around, and every other story they told us, I believed everything they told me. So Michael Crichton came up with the name, the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect. And this is a psychological phenomenon that highlights people's tendency to recognize the unreliability of media when it comes to topics they're familiar with, while still trusting the media for information on other topics. I realized at that moment that everything that they tell me probably is rife with errors, but I couldn't tell. So all of a sudden, you just forget about it, and you have what is called Gell-Mann amnesia. Well, why is it called that? Well, Michael Crichton, the author of Jurassic Park, coined the term Gell-Mann amnesia effect, and I'm just going to quote him, and these are his words. He also wrote Andromeda Strain, Congo, which, by the way, the book Congo was awesome. The movie, not so much. Just scary, giant white gorillas weren't what he was going for. He was going for an ancient civilization that had taught gorillas how to speak sign language. And after the civilization died, the gorillas lived on and passed it on from generation to generation. It was a really cool idea. And this kind of stuff was pretty true in a lot of Crichton's work, that they would miss the whole point of the thing, the really cool scientific point. And they certainly did in the movie Congo, where they just made it a treasure hunt with scary monsters. But anyway, Crichton was quite the genius. Also, he predicted the unreliability of video evidence in the book Red Son. And if you watch the movie with Sean Connery, in it, they take video of a person and they change their face so that everybody thought that this other person committed this crime. Spoiler alert. Sorry, it's 20, 30 years old. I'm not sure when Red Son came out. But at the time, it was like, oh, hell, that'll never happen. I mean, look at what AI can do now. You can take Carl Heberger's voice and make him say the most horrible things and then send it to him on his show, and he will play them. But anyway, we're getting into a point where we're not going to be able to trust our own eyes if we're seeing video evidence of something, which is a little bit frightening, but we're just going to have to figure it out. So here is what Michael Crichton said. Media carries with it a credibility that's totally undeserved. You've all experienced this in what I call the Murray Gell-Mann Amnesia effect. I refer to it by this name because I once discussed it with Murray Gell-Mann. He was the discoverer of the quark, by the way. He was a particle physicist and wrote some really great books. And by dropping a famous name, I imply greater importance to myself and to the effect than it would otherwise have. Briefly stated, the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect is as follows. You open the newspaper to an article on some subject that you know well. In Murray's case, physics. In mine, show business. Michael Crichton was also a physician, too, so he would have had the same problem with medical journalism that I have. You read the articles and see the journalist has absolutely no understanding of either the facts or the issues. Often the article is so wrong, it actually presents the story backward, reversing cause and effect. I call these the wet streets cause rain stories. The paper's full of them. In any case, you read with exasperation or amusement the multiple errors in a story, and then turn the page to national or international affairs and read it as if the rest of the newspaper was somehow more accurate about Palestine than the baloney you just read. You turn the page and you forgot what you know. That is the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect. I point out does not operate in other arenas of life. In ordinary life, if someone consistently exaggerates or lies to you, you soon discount everything they say. I always told my kids, if you lie 10% of the time, we have to check everything that you say. My mother-in-law is occasionally right about the things that she says, but I can never assume that what she's telling me is the truth because it so often is just made up baloney. I'll tell you a great Big Joe story. My kids were going to a place called Natural Tunnel, and she was going to take them up there. And she said, on the way up there, I'm going to take them to this fancy restaurant. And I said, oh, that's nice. What's the name of this fancy restaurant? She said, well, it's called IHOP. And I was like, IHOP? I mean, we have an IHOP right here in town. Oh, no. This is a different IHOP. It's different. It ain't that. And I said, it's a pancake place, Joanne. She's like, no. This is a different place. I said, it can't be named IHOP then. She said, well, they got into into a legal battle, and they went to court, and they got to keep their name. And so it's called IHOP. So I'm like, okay, this I have to see. So the boys were 10 and 11 at the time. And they get up there and they start laughing their asses off because when they got out of the car, they took a picture. I wish I still had the picture of the restaurant and sent it to me. And it was called Hobnob. It was not IHOP. It was Hobnob. And there was no legal battle with IHOP, obviously. That was all just made up bullshit. So when you have someone that just makes up bullshit in your life, you don't believe them. But when the media does the same thing, well, we just turn around and believe everything else that they say when they're talking about something we don't know about. I had this same experience with Governor, all I can think of is Lou Albano, Jesse Ventura, when he was talking about mind control and HAARP and all this stuff. And then he started talking about fluoride in the water. And he said, fluoride is one of the ingredients in Prozac. And so his point was that because fluoride is, quote unquote, one of the ingredients in Prozac, that they were trying to pacify the population by putting fluoride in the water. Well, I was an organic chemist. I understand why there are fluorine atoms in Prozac, fluoxetine, because they they love to attract electrons to their side of the molecule. And when they do that, they expose the rest of the molecule, make it more active. So, I mean, Prozac isn't a cake. You don't just take a few atoms of fluorine and a few atoms of carbon and some nitrogen and mix it all together. No, they're molecules. So I immediately knew that the one time Jesse Ventura talked about something that I knew personally, it was complete horse shit. So I had to suspect everything else that he said. Very similar to medical journalism. However, we read these stories, and every time we have to be shown that they're BS, because most medical journalists are not medical professionals and they don't understand it. So you see a lot of clickbait, and that's one thing where they're just trying to get people to read their article, but some of the clickbait is not even intentional. They just don't even know what they're writing about. So in court, there is back to Michael Crichton's words. In court, there is the legal doctrine of falsus in uno, falsus in omnibus, which means untruthful in one part, untruthful in all. In other words, if you're caught in one lie, they can throw all your testimony out. But when it comes to the media, we believe against evidence it's probably worth our time to read other parts of the newspaper, when in fact, it almost certainly isn't. The only possible explanation for our behavior is amnesia. So I bring this up because I'm going to start a series of videos and other things where I expose medical journalism for what it is. We do some of this on the show. And we'll talk about relative risk versus absolute risk, number needed to treat, number needed to harm, and we'll tease out the truth in medical stories in the news. And I look forward to doing that. And hey, I see Amy is in here. Hello, Amy. And yeah, it seems to be working. It's very jerky on my side. Is it jerky on your side? I did have one question from a listener, and it is Nick Illig, who is the brother of Captain Mike Illig, who you will want to go see if you're ever in Charleston and you want to go fishing. Captain Mike Illig with Avid Angling. It's avidangling.com. Let's hear what Mike has to say.
Good evening, Tacey and Dr. Steve.
Well, Tacey,
so my stepdad had polycystic kidney disease. He had a big gut, supposedly from so many cysts that he had.
Oh my goodness.
He eventually died of an aortic fissure, unrelated to the story, but I learned that his younger daughter, my stepsister, inherited it.
Okay.
And she was telling me that there's really not much they can do for her. They've drained a couple of the cysts,
correct,
but she has a big, what looks like a pregnant belly now, because she's got so much cystic growth on her kidneys. And she said there's nothing surgically they can do except drain it every once in a while, but they don't like to do that because it can cause infection.
Right.
And she said eventually she'll just need kidney transplant or be on dialysis for the rest of her life, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty stunned to hear that that's her prognosis. Is that the case? Is there anything they do for this? What's going on with it?
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, man. Yeah, so polycystic kidney disease, or PKD, it is inherited, and you get a cluster of cysts that develop primarily within your kidneys, and they're fluid filled. It's not malignant, but they are these fluid filled cysts, and so wherever the cysts are, the kidney tissue isn't. So you're losing relative volume, and it can also cause cysts to grow in your liver and elsewhere in your body. And it can vary in severity, though. Not everybody has disease that will take them out of this world. And what you're hoping is over time, we're going to have better treatments for this. One of the treatments would be genetic manipulation. We can't do that yet, but it is likely coming that one of these days we'll be able to take an inherited disorder and just change the genetics so that the tissues don't do the error that they're doing. But a lot of people will have it for years without knowing it. And but if you have a first-degree relative, that'd be mother, father, sister, brother, or child that has polycystic kidney disease, you need to get screened for that. So I'm going to read this part. There's autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease. These are people whose children will be 50% carriers. And then there's autosomal recessive polycystic kidney disease, where 1 in 4 of the kids will have the disease if the other partner also has the recessive gene. So both parents have to have abnormal genes for the 25% to happen. And when I go forward with this, I'll have a whiteboard so I can draw out things like genetic charts and stuff like that. So these people can have high blood pressure, they can lose kidney function, they can have chronic pain. Again, they can get cysts in the liver as well. They can get aneurysms, difficulty with pregnancy, stuff like that. So what you want to do is be as healthy as you can so that your body can handle the changes. Low salt diet, plenty of fruits and vegetables, maintain a healthy weight, don't smoke, those kinds of things. And then you're going to want to see a nephrologist and maybe even a urologist for that. So there is a medication called tolvaptan. That's for people who have risk for rapidly developing autosomal dominant PKD. And it's a pill that you take by mouth that works to slow the rate of the kidney cysts. The problem is there is risk of liver damage with that medication, so they'll only give it to people who are at high risk. And then high blood pressure, they'll treat that normally. Declining kidney function, they'll treat that normally, and some of those folks end up on dialysis, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a rough one, but you want to identify it early, screen your genetics to see if you have the recessive or the dominant version, and then you need to understand what the risk is to your children. And in the future, I'm hoping that we will have a genetic cure for this. And that's really the final frontier. I've always said the immune system is the final frontier of medicine. We have 3 final frontiers. One is the immune system, because once we can fully control the immune system, we can cure cancer, because cancer is simply a failure of the immune system to engage in proper surveillance and killing of tissue that isn't supposed to be there. Then the nervous system. We don't know how the brain works, so how can we fix it when it's broken? We have no idea what consciousness is. To this day, we still don't know. It may be impossible for conscious beings to conceive of consciousness, because then it becomes self-recursive, but hopefully we'll figure that one out. And then the last one, well, maybe this won't come before we figure out what consciousness is genetics. In other words, changing the genome of someone that's already been born so that their Huntington's chorea or their hemophilia or all of those things are no longer an issue. We may need Star Trek stuff to be able to do some of that, but they're working on some of this using viruses and other transporters to transport DNA into cells, which freaks a lot of people out. I get it. I mean, I've seen I Am Legend, so I'm a little concerned about some of the ramifications of this, but that's on the horizon. So anyway, okay. Rochi says Cardiff is live. That's fine. I'm not doing this to be live and get a lot of viewers right now. This is for the Patreon viewers and for everybody else who happens to catch it live. And then I'll publish this to the public domain in about a week or 10 days. But thank you all for hanging out. And again, just a real quickie, just wanted to throw out the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect and why I'm going to be doing a whole series on medical journalism, maybe a whole show on it. But take care. Nikki, Johnny, Amy, Rochi, thanks for hanging out. And we'll just see you next time. Check your stupid nuts for lumps. Quit smoking it off your ass and get some exercise. See you next time.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
He's a fucking idiot.
Well, that's because you're an idiot.
Can you, shut up?